The company's general manager, says the company has since taken over the entire farm and moved on to 7 others in the area. It's now farming maize, soya beans, tobacco and wheat on more than 10,000 hectares of land. Under a bilateral agreement, that will go up to 50,000 hectares by 2015.
The 56-year-old Tao Kui Chong and other 8 colleagues decided to come to Kinshasa to look for business opportunities in 2014. Every morning, the first thing after getting up, Tao Kui Chong is to look at the cabbages in the field. The leaves have jumped out of the ridge, which is slightly different from the common Chinese cabbage leaves. This is the 10th time that they try to grow cabbages.
We have tested many varieties of Chinese cabbages in Africa. The current one is not very perfect, but we will continue to test and improve. In a supermarket, 1 kilogram cabbage is valued $20. We can bring the price down.
A Chinese farm in southwest Nigeria's Ogun State has set up an integrated poultry farm in order to focus on enhancing the nation's food security through commercial agricultural production.
In the beginning, we cooperate with the Ogun State government, obtain the land from them, and we are thinking about to set up an 8-layer farm. And other than this, we also plant the Chinese vegetable to supply those Chinese stay in Lagos State and.
These are knocking at the door. They too looking for some special arrangement to recolonize Africa and do as they wish. And they are actually, it looks like they are going to be worse than what Britain was to us. Because what is worse with them is that they come with labor force. I'm told everything else beautiful now in Zimbabwe, you know, is Chinese owned. And our brothers and sisters are selling on the pavement. It can't be. It can't be. We are looking for new markets. Yes, we are looking for new partners. We are looking for new investors. But let it be done through our own terms as Africans and not through the exploitation of our resources and our people by a new colonizer, because this one projected themselves as better than the previous colonizer. What is even more painful in South Africa, we are told to learn that Chinese language, Mandarin.
Resources there.
That sounds diabolical.
It is. Yes.
That sounds like something conceived in the mind of Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, definitely. And so at the time, Kissinger and those involved with the Carter administration wanted to shrink the population, make sure that the Africans do not develop and do not use the resources for themselves, because we in the States, we need them. There is a concerted effort of foreign powers to control the population of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, could feed thousands more people, but the policies of the West, especially in Europe. For example, between 1990 and the year 2000, the United States, Canada, and Europe contributed about $6 billion in contraceptives. Not to help the people, not to give clean water, clean food.
Not to fight malaria, for example.
No, of course, perish the thought, never. Yeah. Let them die. That's the whole idea. So, in our work in Nature Life, we denounce this reality to make the Africans aware that they have to defend themselves against the influence of foreign powers.
Is it just the United States, or do you believe that China is also playing a role in jockeying for the resources of Africa?
China is playing a major role because China is buying property in Africa. Mm-hmm. For example, in Mozambique, which is a Portuguese-speaking language country, when Portugal was in charge of Mozambique, they used to export rice. Now they are importing rice from China because they cannot produce. The socialism has wrecked the production of rice. And the Chinese come and buy farms. So so about almost a third of Mozambique belongs to China. So I was in other countries of Africa, the same reality. In South Africa, the Chinese are buying property, buying land in Africa.
So
and they send their own workers, the Chinese workers. They don't employ people of the place. They send their own workers to populate, to live in the place.
Thank you for your attendance. Please travel back home safely and arrive alive. We are here today to celebrate the 7th annual what?
Siazi-Uba Yushu Pegile Gakuru Genga Ye Coronavirus. Goda Niga Lilahi Tamba Goba Uba Unyama Gakuru Mase Uzo Musa. Utingo then Gosazana Lugo Yela Mannings in Africa.
Ububane lusungela manje futhi abantu abaningi bashona ngalo. Kodwa ke kufanele singesabi. Asizinakekele, sizivikele, sihlanzeke. Futhi sizobe singamabutho anobuqhawe ekundleni yempi yokulwa namagciwane. Ngethemba ukuba singathokozela ukukhenya kwelanga emva kwemvu elimnyama lobhubhane.
Leli gciwane libi kakhulu, kodwa ke sikholelwa ekutheni thina bantu sizolihlula, sizoqoba. Sithemba lizophela maduze.
Yenza umsebenzi omuhle wokuzivikela, ugqoke imaski, uzinakekele wena nomndeni wakho. Nzima uzophela ngokushesha. Ivela eShayina, siyethemba ukuba konke kuhambe kahle eNingizimu Afrika, futhi siyethemba ukuba kuzobe sekungcono masinyane. Ngayehula i-coronavirus sihambana nayo.
Unity of Africa is big business, and if we forget that, we will once again be manipulated. Lastly, I saw the African National Congress winning an election in South Africa last week. Not that it's a bad thing, but somebody sent me a clip that was very telling. It was a clip where all the celebrants were Chinese, and they were celebrating Hail African National Congress Chinese in Johannesburg. That laughter suggests to me that you have understood my message. God bless you.
trade deals with China, worth over $1.7 billion. China is South Africa's biggest trading partner and biggest investor. South Africa's deepening ties with China have other consequences.
As soon as I landed in South Africa, signs of China-Africa cooperation were everywhere. Since 2010, China has been South Africa's biggest trade partner. Now, China is also South Africa's single biggest investor. China clearly sees South Africa, with its development, infrastructure, and location, as a gateway to the rest of the continent. And the two countries are in the middle of a pretty intense honeymoon period. But there are already signs that the relationship could easily go sour. In June 2019, China and South Africa signed 93 economic and trade cooperation deals worth $1.7 billion. That was also when Chinese leader Xi Jinping and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa met during the G20 summit in Japan. And the South African president grabbed Xi Jinping's chest while Putin looked on? What is going on here? Please, don't tell me. But it's clear that Xi and Ramaphosa have a connection. I mean, Xi Jinping looks almost happy. Maybe that's because he knows that President Ramaphosa and his political party, the ANC, are strong supporters of the Chinese Communist Party. In fact, back in 2015, the ANC called the Chinese Communist Party a guiding lodestar for the ANC because of their economic reforms in China. And the support goes both ways. China's ambassador to South Africa said that President Cyril Ramaphosa is the last hope of this country. That's in reference to Ramaphosa's drive to bring in $100 billion of new investment to lift South Africa's economy out of a slump. And most of what they've raised so far is from, you guessed it, China. Like the $2.5 billion loan to the heavily indebted state-owned power company, Eskom. But a big focus for the two countries is trade, like those 93 trade agreements I mentioned earlier. One thing these deals are supposed to do is to fix a trade imbalance between the two countries. Currently, about 85% of what China buys from South Africa are minerals and metals. They're sucking up South Africa's natural resources. And what does China sell to South Africa? Manufactured goods. Like here at Johannesburg's China Mall, or at Oriental Plaza, where you can get a bargain on China green tea, or communist Che Guevara shirts, or random cookware. I'm not a big fan. While this is great for China, it's less great for South Africa, since cheap imports can affect local industries. That's a structural imbalance that South Africa's trade minister wants to reset. Most of the imported goods at places like China Mall are from small mom-and-pop businesses. There are around 500,000 Chinese people in South Africa. At first, most immigrants were actually Taiwanese. They came from Taiwan in the 1970s and 80s, when South Africa had an official relationship with Taiwan. Then, starting 20 years ago, they were replaced by economic migrants from mainland China. Now, these small mom-and-pop importers are leaving. I talked to several who told me that business just isn't what it used to be. But as these small Chinese entrepreneurs leave, they're being replaced by the Chinese state. That is, huge Chinese state-owned enterprises and big businesses supported by the state. Which is why South Africa is getting its 5G infrastructure from, you guessed it, Huawei, the other Huawei. Another example is state-owned Beijing Automotive Industrial Corporation's new auto assembly plant in Port Elizabeth. The company, known by its acronym BIKE, is supposed to source around 30% of auto components from local companies. Does the auto manufacturing benefit South Africa? Sure.
And it's beginning now already to make a difference to the employment situation of young people.
But the auto plant, which can source the remaining 70% of car components from outside of South Africa, could provide outsized benefits for China.
Where a Chinese company partners with a South African company and manufactures here in South Africa, a great opportunity is presented to export duty-free into the rest of the African continent, into the European Union, and into the United States through our favorable trade agreements.
So basically, Chinese companies can exploit South Africa's free or near free market access to flood the rest of the continent as well as Europe and the US, with cheap cars that could be assembled mostly from parts made in China. But it's not just about trade and investment. China and South Africa are also cooperating, along with Russia, on military exercises, part of the PLA's goal to develop a blue water navy. And South African police are also being trained in China. But perhaps the biggest potential problem with South Africa's growing ties to China is political influence by the Chinese Communist Party. Like when South Africa's president recently came out in defense of Huawei, and he blasted the US as backwards thinking and jealous in its fight against the company.
Because the United States has been unable to imagine a better future which goes beyond 4+1G. Where they've been unable to imagine what 5G can offer, that a Chinese company called Huawei has outstripped them.
So clearly, South Africa does not share America's security concerns. Meanwhile, back in 2017, the South African Minister of Public Service and Administration lavished praise on Xi Jinping's book on socialism for a new era and called him the most powerful leader on earth and also very humble.
President Xi Jinping's words surpasses in the veil even the most precious matter.
I guess that's why South Africa is giving its precious metals to China in exchange for Xi Jinping's very valuable words. Now, it's interesting that if you look for information on China and South Africa's relationship, you don't find that many critical opinions. Maybe that's because they're still on their honeymoon, so everything's still going well. Or maybe it's because China is buying African media's silence. A columnist at a South African paper was fired after writing an opinion piece about the Uyghurs, the Turkic Muslim minority being put in concentration camps in China. Turns out that South African media company was partly owned by Chinese state-linked investors. Or this, a scholar at a South African university was told that he would not receive a visa to enter China until his classroom lectures contained more praise for Beijing. And here's my own experience. As I was planning my trip to South Africa, I tried to set up an interview with a local expert on China-South Africa relations, like I did in Greece and Italy. Strangely, I couldn't find anyone who wanted to talk to me. In fact, I was even ghosted a few times. And then I found out that right after my trip, one of the biggest universities in Johannesburg was hosting a conference on China, sponsored by the university's Confucius Institute. Suddenly, many things became clear. Like I said earlier, China and South Africa are still in their honeymoon stage. We'll have to keep watching to see what happens next.
What I'm saying is we deal with reality right now. I'm saying let's deal with the basis of right now. We're talking about how we were kings and queens. That's all good. We discovered math and science. But now let's master math and science for right now. So we can have economic power. We have to deal within ourselves and eliminate them from our equation.
Thomas Sankara died for Africa to be free.
Steve Biko died for Africa to be free. Chris Hani died for Africa to be free. Amilcar Cabral died for Africa to be free. And after all the blood that has been spilled, Dedan Kimathi died for Africa to be free. And after all the blood has been spilled, you mean to tell me 60 years after we kicked the white man out, you want to roll out the red carpet to the Chinese?
It's like slavery all over.
It's slavery all over. Oh, but it's different now because guess what the Chinese are doing? They adding a little twist. They're building military bases and police stations everywhere they set up shop. I'm going to be interviewed by Djibouti magazine next week. They contacted me last night. They're going to interview me because Djibouti is the first African country that has a Chinese police station. Can I ask you a question? If you are the president of Wakanda, you are a sovereign nation. I want to come and do business in your sovereign nation. Can you please tell me why you allowing me to bring my own police? You are a sovereign nation. Part of being sovereign means what? You control the military. But Africa is letting China bring their own police. Let me tell you what's going to happen. The Chinese as disrespect, and by the way, they are as disrespectful in Africa as they are here. So when you read these stories in New York about the sister being beat up in the nail salon,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
They do the same thing in Africa. Oh, the Chinese think they own it. When you go, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Guess what? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be a conflict. An African is going to get disrespected by Chinese. It's going to turn into a group conflict, and the Chinese military is going to hurt one of our African brothers and sisters. It's going to turn into a civil war.
Yeah.
And then China going to send a whole army in, and they're going to colonize that whole country. And they're going to do just like America does. We just making your country safe for democracy.
The desegregation.
Friends, this continent of Africa must be one. I hear you saying, he says, the borders must be open. The borders must be open. Because borders are open for white people. When there is a white person from Mozambique who can't even speak English, you welcome them. When there is a brother from Mozambique into Nice Strait, you call them names, yet you don't call white people names. There is no Mozambique here. There is no Swaziland here. There is no Lesotho here. There is no Botswana here. Zambia or Namibia. There is no Zimbabwe. There is Africa, the continent of our ancestors. We were divided by the colonizers. What type of a student activist are you? What type of a ground force are you? You say, I don't want colonialism. We want decolonization. Yet you are supporting colonial borders in Africa. We don't want anything that looks like colonialism. We want to be one thing with our sisters in Tanzania, in Nigeria, in Egypt, in DRC, in Sudan, in South Sudan, everywhere else in Africa. We don't want passport, we don't want visa, we must move free of charge. Why? We are one thing. Yeah? He's taking a lot of women for himself. Avanas, I'm collapsing the borders. Go and contest him in Swaziland there. The borders must be collapsed. We are one thing. This continent is one. I am a Zimbabwean. I am a Nigerian. I am a Tanzanian. Because
Africa cannot permanently be a subject of superpowers. It has to take its rightful place.
About the story of my life.
don't touch me. So please don't touch me. He was a buffalo soldier. He was a buffalo soldier.
Emadoda ngomnyaka wewaka namakhulu amathandathu anamashumi amahlanu anesibini afika amadlagusha kweli lizwe abanga zakhekeka intloko zamadoda ngaphalala igazi yaphuma imiphefumlo kwatyikilikwa amadoda ukwenzela ukuba soma kule ndawo sikuyo siyabulela ke tholela kwamgabe ngokwenjenjalo mfaka ncamashe ngandani madoda thehleka ndayeni dwala mfoka moswale ngandani sibe ugwanini ndiyabona kusonakala madoda into zosinqo zingalilisela into zodolobe zingalila angavumbuluka amathambo ento kamgayi ilele njabozuko izothi noJosini ngamadolo othina komkhulu xa ivumba ningaliboni asinako mfoka ncamashe uba singabona intlokana neephathi zomfudlana kule dyunivesithi yokhokho noobawo bethu hambani ngedaso nevumba layo sifunapha hambani ngedaso nixelela uba ngapha kweentlambo zethyube singabantwana bemguba singabantwana benzaka singamathola lendawo singamathuba bomkama asisoze sivume madoda mabana ubilifa lobawo bethu lingathathwa yi-CIA ye-Amerika lithathwe inyandla yasebritane asifuni ema-5 ngaphakathi apha sifuna amathola kwalihlanga kuphela bavulani kamadoda nibaxelela abathunyiweyo bangatingatinga umphakuwile igwala kulonina sizayilwela iAfrika ngoba singamathola onyongande kudlelana thetha ke mongameli Mkhabe you are free ngoba siyayazi oba wena uqwaye ibhaki zonto zonkuma wena usenzele ivumba lohelasi siyazi uba wena uqubayele waqengatenga le nto zokhawuta walilisela mfondini sikujongile ubuyisa iAfrika awuthathanga nto yamlungu uthathe into zaseAfrika okuhlala kule ndawo maqhutyayelo ugodukwe siyafumana nakathina yafuna uthetha. You tell them I have no apologies. The land is ours. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. How can only a handful of people, in fact it's only America and the Europeans, those who say they are white-skinned, because they are white-skinned, anybody else who is not like us shall not have the power and strength, integrity that we have. If the United Nations is to survive, we must be equal members of it. Equal members who can say when we go to the body that we are now speaking truly as members with a voice that's understood, respected, and honored. So I wonder whether you have told them that we also are humans. We are supposed to be free and independent, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Supposed to be free, the 54 countries. We come to the United Nations, it's ceremonial. Every year, September, we are there. We pay lots of money to go there. And to the General Assembly, we make speeches, we go back home, year in, year out. But the bosses in the Security Council say, you shall never have the powers that we have as permanent members. And we have asked and asked and asked. And asked and asked. Reform the Security Council. I want to tell you, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, you are a good man. You are a good man. But of course, we can't make you a fighter. That's not what your mission was. We will fight a fight for our own identity, for our own integrity and personality as Africans. We are Africans.
Iswa imithandazo
criminal.